Hello my friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Karis, I'm a physiotherapist. Today we will talk about skeletal system. This is the second episode of our anatomy series. So in general, we have 2 or 6 bones in our body. We have axial skeleton and we have appendicular skeleton. Axial skeleton means the skulls and vertebrae, while the appendicular skeleton means by the appendices that hang on the axial skeleton, which we mean by shoulder girdle. We have upper limb, pelvic, and lower limb. So I will put the 3D models on the side of the screen to make it more clear when I describe and talk about parts of the bone. So first we have the skull. This is the skull, which consists of some fused bone that they fuse together. In front, by its name, we have a frontal lobe. Then we have here parietal lobe. The parietal lobe, the name comes from the wall. It means wall, which is here. And it kind of describes, sometimes the names of the bone describe their position or something that they do. So then we have temporal bone, which is here around the ear area. And on the back of the skull, we have occipital bone. Then we have a cheekbone here, which is made from the portions of the parietal, temporal, and frontal lobe. They make a cheekbone. And then in the inside of the skull, we have sphenoid bone. Here we have nasal bone. Here we have a maxilla. And here we have a mandible. Okay, so these are the bones on the skull. Of course, we have much more bones inside, but those are the important ones. So now we will talk about the vertebrae or spine. In total, we have 33 to 34 vertebrae. So we have 7 cervical vertebrae, followed by a 12 thoracic vertebrae, and then we have a 5 lumbar vertebrae, followed by a 4 to 5 fused sacrum vertebrae, and then we have a coccyx, which is 3 to 4 bones, and then they attach it to the rib. So we have a 12 thoracic vertebrae, and we have a 12 rib that attach it to the thoracic vertebrae. And then these ribs are attached to the sternum by a cartilage called costal cartilage, which costals means rib. It means a cartilage of the rib. But the last 2 ribs are not attached to the sternum by a cartilage, so that's why they call it a floating rib. We mean the 11th and 12th. So the floating ribs are the ribs of the 11th and 12th rib. And now we talk about the sternum. Sternum is a 3-part bone. The uppermost part, call it manubrium. The middle one, call it the body of the sternum. And the lowest part, which is like a tail, call it xiphoid process. Then we come to the shoulder girdle, which we have a clavicle, which is a collarbone. And then at the back, we have a triangular shaped bone, which call it scapula. So we have a clavicle and scapula. Then we have a humerus bone, which is followed by ulna and radial bone. The ulna is here, medial, which is here. This is also ulna. This is all a cranial process, but it's the elongation of the ulnar bone. And here we have radius. The ulnar bone is wide at the top, but when it comes downward, it becomes narrow. But the radial bone is the opposite. So it is narrow at the top, then when it comes downward, it becomes wider. And ulnar bone is a fixed bone, while the radial is moving on ulnar. That's why we can do pronation and supination, because the radius can move on ulna. Then these 2 bones followed by a carpal bones, which they consist of 8 bones that we don't talk about in detail in this video. Then they followed by a metacarpals, which we have 5 metacarpal. For each finger we have 1. And then they followed by phalanges, which we have 3 phalanges for all 4 fingers, except for thumb and also big toe, which we have 2 phalanges, proximal and distal, while the other 4 we have proximal, middle, and distal. So now we will move to the pelvic, which the pelvic is the bone that holding the weight of the body and attach the spine and upper body to the lower body. We have three parts of the pelvic. The wing, which is called ilium, and then we have the lower lateral part, which is called ischium, and we have pubis, which is in the middle part. So then we come downward, we have the biggest bone of the human body, which is femur. Then this femur, and then we have a sesamoid bone, which is the top of the knee joint, call it a patella. When we come downward, we have a big and then we have a small bone. The big bone, which is more medial, call it tibia, and the smaller bone, which is more lateral, call it fibula. Unlike the radius and ulna, tibia and fibula are more fixed because they are weight-bearing bones, so they don't move and rotate on each other. Then we have a foot. On the foot, we have several bones like a hand. We have tarsal bones, which including calcaneus, heel bone, then we have a talus, we have navicular, then we have a cuneiformis, which consists of three bones, medial, lateral, and intermediate cuneiform, and then we have a cuboid followed by metatarsal bone, which we have a 5 like a metacarpal in the hand. Then we have phalanges. Like a thumb, in the big toe, we have 2 phalanges, but the other 4 toes are 3 phalanges. So that's it for today, and if you have any questions or want to add anything, you can write it down in the comments below. So hope you get benefit from it, and see you in the next video.